What's going on, everybody? Kyle Powers here, Haven Real Estate Group at eXp Realty. K-State grad, turned contractor, turned real estate agent and investor. Today, I have another very special guest, two guests with me here with the Poo Squad. We're here with another episode of Local Legends of the Flint Hills, where business meets community. And I've got Jamie Coons and Cory Reeves here. We are here with the Poo Squad. Guys, I want to appreciate you guys jumping in here with me today and kind of going through everything. So I do appreciate that. I think you guys are going to really love everything that we've got for you today. Jamie's been in business now. We're going to go over this for a while, but Jamie's been in business. I've known him for a long time, a good friend of mine, and I would highly, highly recommend everything that you're going to enjoy here. So let's go ahead and talk about it, Jamie. So talk to us a little bit about that first day that you woke up and you're like, I'm going to pick up poop.
I don't know if it went exactly like that, but it all kind of started back in like 2007-ish or so. I was reading a magazine article in like Forbes or Entrepreneur magazine, something like that. And it was talking about this guy that was making $8 million a year picking up dog poop down in Oklahoma. So anytime I was having a bad day or whatever, I always kind of joked, shoot, man, I can pick up dog poop. So anyway, fast forward to 2017, so like 10 years later. I was joking about it all the time. My wife and I decided to move back to Manhattan. We both went to school here, moved to Wichita. And when we moved back to Manhattan, it was like, okay, well, what are we going to do here? I was like, I might just give that dog poop thing a try. And so started kind of laying the groundwork and putting it out there. And in March of 2017, we launched Poo Squad Manhattan. And then just things kind of took off from there. People thought I was absolutely nuts because when I first moved to Manhattan, nobody knew me here. I didn't know a single person when I moved here. And so now you've got this new guy running all around town talking about picking up dog poop, and people are like, man, this guy's nuts, But we did it, and now your question was the very first day. So I wanted to give you a little background on how it all came about. But the very first day, I remember waking up. I was standing at the foot of the bed, and my wife was still laying there in bed. We were getting ready for the day, and I was just sitting there smiling, and she looks up at me, and she's like, why are you smiling? And I was like, man, the only thing I have to do today is go pick up dog poop. And it didn't seem very stressful, Like any day I could just get to go pick up dog poop is a pretty good day. So that is the origin of Poo Squad in a really small form there.
That's awesome. Now I can remember, I think a lot of the first times I met you, I remember vividly in my memory of doing an open house, and you and I talked a lot about that stuff. So I think that's just to see from that day to even today is fantastic. So one thing I want to touch on with you is okay, so we talked about the origin, right? So I want to know, it's bigger. Poo Squad has gotten way bigger since 2017, right? You have 16 locations. Where from that moment, standing at the foot of your bed, when did you decide like, okay, I'm going to make this be much bigger, and why?
Yeah, so there was no plans of a franchise when we first started Poo Squad. We did a little bit of foreshadowing, I suppose. Like originally, I was going to call it Poo Squad MHK. And then by suggestion of my good friend Jason Meisenberg, we were sitting at coffee one morning talking about Poo Squad, and he's like, I think you need to drop the MHK. And his reason was the foreshadowing. Okay, well, maybe this thing goes bigger than just Manhattan. And sure enough, here we are almost 7 years later, 16 locations, and we've got 4 or 5 more in the works. We actually just opened back up to start bringing on new locations again.
So Jason has the credit of the original Facebook and getting rid of the right? He gets rid of that. Yeah. A little bit more about your community involvement. I think one of the things that I've really been drawn to you, that I have been drawn to you as a friend and as a person to bounce ideas off of business-wise, one of the things that you've really done a really good job of from the moment I met you back prior to 2017 and everything that came with that is that you've always told me, like, get involved, right? Get involved in the community, give without expecting giving back or without expecting anything in return. And so I want to talk to us a little bit more about your involvement. And Cory, again, I want you to jump in here too. Talk about Poo Squad's involvement locally. And then I also know that there's that you teach that for a lot of your locations as well. So I want to touch on that involvement and how that hits home for you.
Yeah, that's just always been super important to me. I think anybody who has the ability to do something nice for anybody, even if it's just opening a door or whatever, I think we need to take every opportunity to help people when we can. And so when we moved to Manhattan, it was very important to me to get involved in things like Optimus Club and there's all kinds of different great nonprofits in Manhattan. And the Greater Manhattan Community Foundation is just a wealth of knowledge on all nonprofits in Manhattan. So it was important for me to get plugged in to the Community Foundation. We even started our own fundraiser, the Young Trustees Chili Cook-Off, which I think we're in year number 7 next year, 6 or 7. And that's been a wonderful event. We've raised, over 6 figures. And what's cool about it is each team is competing on behalf of a different nonprofit community. So it's just been really cool, man. And what I really enjoy about community involvement and working with the different nonprofits is you just meet a million wonderful people. They all have the same mission. We're all kind of like-minded. Of course, I think you get a good mix of the folks who just want to put something on their resume, but there's really some genuinely good-hearted people. And I've just always really appreciated those relationships and those types of people.
I mean, it's really kind of how I met Jamie in the first place, was through community events. I did 25 years with the local radio stations and running a local media company. So, of course, that's a community involvement job, right? That's our job is really to, you think about it as a form of entertainment, but it's really business building and community and philanthropy building, so much of what radio and local media does. So that's how I met Jamie, was at local events and things like that. And then it turned into, I'm starting this chili cook-off thing. We'd really like some partnership there. And then after a bit, it turned more into talks about Poo Squad and branding and marketing. And so all of it came from a community forward focus. And we became friends before eventually jumping on for Team Orange. But that's all those discussions started with a strong base, and the more you give back, the more you get from a community. And I think that works personally and in business both. So we've both had really strong ties in that direction. And it's 100% a tenet of every Poo Squad franchise location. It's the first thing you have to do is go get involved in your community. One, it proves that you're local and it proves that you care. So I think it makes business relationships easier, but people want to do business with companies they think are committed to building their local community. If you're just in it for the dollars, I don't think you're going to stick. So that's going to be a long-term base of Poo Squad everywhere, not just here in Manhattan.
Well, and it starts here, right? It starts at the top with you guys as far as starting that stuff. So I have to say it on camera too. Congratulations, Jamie's 2023 Young Trustee of the Year. So he's got a lot of accolades with that stuff of it. So, but that speaks volumes to all of this, right? It speaks volumes to what we're talking about, and you live by example on that part of it, right? So for all of your locations and stuff that come with that. So I want to take a little bit of a turn here, but I think it's going to take into the testament of what you are and what you've built and building. You went through a spout at the hospital. I want to touch on that one, and not necessarily to talk about that piece of it necessarily, but more of what the business did to speak volumes to you as an entrepreneur and small business owner, and talk about what that looks like, how the business ran. And I'm going to also say it again, because we just talked about it, how the community rallied behind you too when you're in there, because that was one of the things that I think I love the most about all of that. I love that your business still ran, obviously, but just seeing the community involvement of that. So let's talk about that and really what that has become as the mission for Poo Squad.
Yeah, well, there's a lot to unpack in that question. So just if you're curious why my voice sounds like this, I don't smoke a bunch of cigarettes or anything. I was in the hospital with COVID for 50 plus days on a ventilator. Anyways, that's what he was getting at. And it was incredible, man. You can tell it kind of hits me emotionally anytime I talk about this. But just to see, we live in the most wonderful community. We had so many people. My wife, she was sitting there at the side of my bed at the hospital, and she was like, "Jamie, I don't think you understand." She's like, "I had no idea you know so many people here." and I just I remember I was still, coming off the ventilator and on pain meds and everything. And I just kind of remembered her chuckling and saying, "I had no idea that many people even liked me," just kind of a joke. But yeah, we live in this awesome community who just rallied behind Poo Squad. And the way that we set everything up, when we started Poo Squad, I'm like, okay, we're going to take this mundane task that people hate to do, and we're going to turn it into this crazy experience, an experience you would never expect when you hire somebody to pick up dog poop. And we're going to be the absolute best at it, is what I said to Ashley. But I said we're going to be the absolute best at it, which sounds kind of ridiculous on the surface, right? How are you the best at picking up dog poop? Anybody can go do this. I was like, well, we're going to do it a bunch of different ways. And we're going to automate everything we possibly can. It's going to be this seamless process to sign up online 24/7. Yeah, anybody can sign up anytime. We're going to communicate with them constantly, tell them when we're on our way. We're going to let them know when we're done. We're going to send them a picture of their closed and locked gate. We're going to clean our tools and shoes between every visit to make sure we're not spreading cross-contaminating bacteria between yards. We're going to go above and beyond, almost to the point where it's ridiculous of the level of service that we're providing. And so that's really what we tried to build all over the country and what we're doing now. And I think it's paying off because people really appreciate everything that we're doing. But so to get back to your question, I got kind of sidetracked there. It was key to have all of that automation and everything in place because when I was in the hospital, the business didn't really need me to run. Everything's automated. I mean, once somebody signs up, it just takes... I mean, we have wonderful employees at Poo Squad who were able to just utilize the systems we put in place, and it ran fine without me. So even me... I mean, I was down for almost a year. I was only in the hospital, on the ventilator for 50 or so days, but for about the next year, I couldn't really work. It was all just kind of recovery. Didn't have a whole lot of mental capacity to handle any challenging decisions or anything like that. So those are the processes and procedures we put into place, and we're putting that into place all across the country in all of our locations. So that's been a really cool thing to see.
And like I said, I think that speaks volumes to what you have created and are creating in that sense of it. So, all right. So most people, right? And most people in your shoes, most entrepreneurs are totally fine with staying local, building out their business locally and doing what that is and becoming the best Poo Squad Manhattan, Kansas, right? Most people are okay with that. You're obviously not. So what is your mission with growing Poo Squad? Why have you made the decision to grow Poo Squad?
Yeah, so, and that even ties back to my COVID story. As I was kind of coming out of that and recovering from it, it really kind of just changed my entire perspective on life and what we really value and find important. And it's been just super important to me to give other folks the opportunity to live a life that maybe they wouldn't have been able to have. To give somebody an opportunity to build a business and have financial independence and free up their schedule. We've got so many cool stories from Poo Squad. We've got one of our Kansas City owners was an area director for a local grocery store chain and was just working 16-hour days, never got to see his family do anything. It just completely changed his life, right? And so that's actually our mission statement is changing people's life through dog poop, which sounds crazy, I know, but we try to embrace a little bit of the craziness here and, enjoy and have fun with what we do. But it's just been really important for me to allow other people to change their lives. And we've done it over and over again. We've got so many cool stories about some of our owners in other locations.
Well, it's interesting that, I know that COVID changed Jamie's outlook, but actually watching Jamie during COVID, or I think actually texting, I think I texted Jamie every day while he was on the ventilator, because at some point this is going to be a story to be told and he won't have a frame of reference. So it was like, well, how do we make almost like a little, I don't know, 1 million text long book? So seeing that, it just wasn't that. I had several friends going through some health troubles and scares, and it wasn't all COVID related. It was just kind of all hitting at the same time, and to lose a couple and then also see a couple start to get over. I had some friends go through cancer treatments and things like that too. And kind of the rearranging of priorities, I think, is an important element of it. And then as Jamie's recovering, it kind of turned into more and more conversations of where he was kind of poised to be right before COVID kind of knocked him back down. The framework was in place to really launch Poo Squad as a national brand, and getting sick kind of knocked that back, and then it would turn into more conversations just as friends, when he's like, well, what I really need is a little creative energy and an outlet of somebody who can do the things that I can't do. So it was a lot of asking questions like, well, what would you do, or how would you hire this, or where would we go with that? And it's always Jamie's always super flattering. So he'd be like, well, I need a guy like you. And finally I was like, well, what if it's just me? Can we just skip to that part? And it was like, we keep having this conversation. He's like, well, what do I need to do to hire someone that can kind of do what you do? And finally I was like, well, why do we keep beating around here? This is just you. How about we figure out a way to just make it me? So it allows me to prioritize too. It's a whole different set of challenges, but the framework's there, right? Like the technology pieces and the kind of pursuit of customer service and excellence that allows you to build a Poo Squad. We just have to make those same things of how to build other Poo Squads, right? So there's a great formula and a great procedure in place to operate the day-to-day franchise model for Poo Squad. Like how do you build your routes? How do you, what are the things that need to go in a truck? How do we hire employees? Like all those things have a process. So Jamie and I's job now is like, well, how do we make a process for making someone a franchisee? Okay, well, let's invent that process. And what does that look like? And how do you scale communications from one town to multiple towns? And almost you look at each franchise as its own client, right? So it's like, how do we orient that? And that's an incredible challenge for me. Like, how do you take marketing on a small local scale and turn it into gigantic? And also, how do you take the things that you do that are big and how do you make sure that they help every single one individually? It's like, what a cool challenge that is. And if we get that over here and make that successful here, like, is there any better way to spend your days than like, well, hey, I get to tell a pretty amazing success story with one of my friends. Well, that's the win. And, success and cash and all the other stuff, and hopefully extra days off to fish all follows, but it's going to get there. So that was a unique challenge for me. And so how do I turn 25 years of storytelling, which is what local media is, how do I turn that storytelling element and switch it over to be a little bit more focused on one? So it's like, well, this is it. So it'll be pretty exciting. And it either work or it won't, but I think I'd rather risk and not wonder later, like, well, maybe I should have done that. I think part of the glory sometimes is in the failure, and all the learning is in the failure. So why not risk a little bit to potentially see an amazing success with someone you consider one of your best friends? So here we go.
Yeah, and actually I want to touch on something that you just said. He answered the question directly. That is what changed my perspective. When I woke up, when I came out of this coma, I started going through my phone, right? And like he said, he had sent me a text message just about every day that I was in, just giving me an update on whatever happened that day. And that was what was so cool. I quite literally had thousands of messages on my phone from the time that I was down. And it wasn't even from people that I knew. There were prayer circles all over the world of people that were praying for me, and it was a pretty spiritual experience. And so it really changed my perspective. I opened up a message from a guy that said, "Hey, I know you don't know me, but I heard you on a podcast one time, and I just want to let you know that your story, the story of Poo Squad, changed my life forever." And it inspired me to start my own business and start living life my own way as well. He's like, and once I heard what you're going through, he's like, I was almost embarrassed because I never reached out to you to say thank you for giving that to me. And I never even met this person. And so it was just really inspiring to me. And it was like, wow, what we're doing here, we really are changing people's lives. So that became the mission. I'm one of those weird people that I don't really care about money, success, flashy things. That's just not really me. But what I do care about is if I can impact somebody else's life and make it better, well, that's just a big win. And so that's just been our whole mission with Poo Squad. And I'm really excited about the direction we're headed.
What are the future plans, right? I mean, Poo Squad, here we are, call it ground zero for I think we talked off camera. What's that tipping point, right? What does that look like for you guys?
Yeah, and I'll let Cory touch more on this in just a second, because he's a big part of our future, and that's the reason that I wanted him to be with us so bad. The future of Poo Squad is, like you just hit the tipping point, and we are we're right at the top of this mountain here. We've put so much work into laying all the groundwork to be able to do what we're going to do and scale this on a nationwide basis. We already are nationwide. We're coast to coast, but there's a lot of area there, and we've only got 16. Yeah. We could easily have probably 800, but that's what we're still figuring out and what we have to explore. But we've done all the work. It's all there. We're now able to replicate all of our process procedures, and we can take anybody who's willing to put in some effort, and we can just plug them into our system, and almost overnight, they're living a completely different life. Like I was telling you the story, our grocery store manager guy, the day he called me like on a Monday or something like that. I don't even remember the day now, but he's like, "Hey, how's that Poo Squad thing going?" It's like, "Yeah, we're doing all right." And so he wanted to talk about maybe opening up his own Poo Squad. And within 48 hours, he had called me. I was actually in the yard scooping a yard. I was covering for one of our employees, and I get a phone call. I'm sitting just out there scooping dog poop, and I get a phone call, and it was him. He said, "Hey, I did it." He said, "You did what?" said, I quit my job. So you quit, you know what kind of pressure that puts on me, right? Like this guy just quit his 6-figure job, very successful guy, to come do this. Well, I mean, within 2 days of that, he was here. We signed his paperwork, built out his website, plugged him into all of our systems. By the time that he signed the contract that day, by the time he got home to Kansas City that night, we'd already set up an ad campaign for him, and he had 3 yards to go scoop the next day. So he was in business overnight, and that's kind of the future of Poo Squad. We want to be able to do that with anybody, and so having Cory here has been a huge help with that. Just trying to put some of those policies, and procedures in place, and a lot of the things that we're doing. You know, we've built an online repository, an online classroom where any new location can come in and they've got a video course on how to set up their own Poo Squad. We've got video courses for our scoopers, you know, how to navigate all of our software and route building and just doing all of these different things. But we have to automate as much of that as possible. So when we start our nationwide campaign, that's what we're talking about, the tipping point, we're very close to starting our nationwide campaign to start bringing on other new locations. But when we start that, we have to have as much of that as automated as possible. Right. Everything that Cory's working on, and he's probably got a better idea of what he's working on than I do, so I'll let him talk about that.
So a lot of it's just driving brand message, right? Like we joked a little bit about having a background in media, so a lot of that's how to present, coming up with ideas for different clients as far as how they like to brand or image, condensing a whole bunch of information into a small amount of space. Like those are the things where I think that I have talent for. Plus, you know, I ran 5 radio stations. It's 5 different brands that are targeting different people in different ways. So that kind of experience, as well as advertising campaigns for clients and things like that. But how do we distill that down to an actual procedure for bringing on a new franchise? Well, a lot of that's going to be how do we simplify the communication process? That's building in video and text messaging and those kind of elements. So that way we're directly talking to homeowners and clients for our franchisees. That's one less thing that they have to do, right? So it's like, how do we take things off their plate? Can we simplify an employee manual for everybody? Yes, we can. Can we build a classroom kind of structure that way someone can go through and learn a little bit about the job that they're doing before you actually get to the training point? Yes, we can. So that's stuff that, you know, that's kind of stuff that people do on a large scale business would be doing. It's like, well, we can do that on this scale absolutely too. And then it just allows for more growth. And how do we keep, at some point it's easy to keep 4 or 5 franchises on brand. How do you keep 100 franchises on brand? Well, you have to have someone kind of manage and police that. So that's going to be a little bit of my job as well. And Jamie, as a huge idea guy, I think he enjoys going, take this, and if you could make this orange, we joke about that. Just turn this orange for me so that it matches all the other branding, all the other imaging, how we talk, how we speak, how we feel. If you could do that and then set it free into the world, let's go ahead and go do that. So that's exciting for me. And the idea that if we can corral the information that have made the starting Poo Squad franchises so successful, and we allow people to skip those hurdles, right? Like that's the toughest part of starting a business. You got to come up with your own brand. You got to come up with your own name. Does this name already exist? Can I even buy that website? Can I build a website? How do I handle e-commerce? How do I consolidate leads into any kind of funnel? What do I have to do for online marketing? What do I have to do for local marketing? Do I have a street team? I don't even have a person, much less people to go talk to. So if we're allowed to let everyone jump that, I think it'd be good. We went to of all things, a Poop Scoop convention in Myrtle Beach. And I loved going to that, but it also let me know it's like, oh, this is an industry that is ready for this kind of organization. Like that's what it's ready for. So I like for us to be able to provide that. You know, Jamie talks about having dreams about like a Super Bowl commercial and things like that. I think that's amazing. I want to do that. I also think I want people to refer to Poo Squad the way that they refer to some other service industries. Like even if you're not calling Roto-Rooter, you say Roto-Rooter like it's a thing, right? You might call someone who's not that to come fix your plumbing, but you use it that way. I would like for someone to say, oh, well, they get to their new town and like, well, I gotta get Poo Squad over here. So they're Googling Poo Squad, not just Googling dog waste removal. So I think that's going to be super exciting to do. And I know that it's achievable. And again, it says it's bad whenever you go to industry conference, but I'm sure you do the same thing in real estate. It's pretty empowering when you walk out of a place like that and you're like, I fear none of these people. I'm ready to go win. And that's the message to the team. It's the message in all the coaching calls. So it's just an exciting time for, I think, this service industry level, and you know that of all the things that people are cut back and everything else in the economy, the one place they're never going to scrimp is their pets because people treat them like their children. So I think it's an industry that's ready, which makes it super exciting to try to take what in theory is a very simple business, right? You're just picking up poop, but how do we do that in the most efficient and technologically forward and maybe clever way possible? I think that it's fun, right? Like this, it's a silly business. Lean into it. I'm here for all the poop jokes. I'm here for all the word number one and number two. I'm here for we take a bunch of crap off of our people. Like I don't care. Like make all those jokes you want and lean into it. And I think that's our next challenge is to find the people who are ready to lean into that, make it their image, and laugh all the way to the bank. The same every self-made multimillionaire plumber does too. It says, you know what, that's great. You can laugh about what I do. I'm gonna laugh on my boat on my weekends off at the lake. And I think that's where Poo Squad's headed.
Okay, so let's talk. How do we get a hold of you? Right? How does a person watching this video, maybe they're local to Manhattan, maybe they're local to a town coming soon, how do they get a hold of Poo Squad?
Yeah, so poosquad.com. I mean, it's got all of our info right there. You can find any of our locations around the country that we currently have, and that's poosquad.com. And then if you want to get a hold of me, actually the link to my bio is poosquad.co/CoonsBio, which is COONES. bio, and that's got all my contact information within my bio. It's got links to my calendar to like if somebody watching this wants to start up a new Poo Squad somewhere, there's a link on there on my calendar to have a conversation about that, or if you want to have us on for a podcast or whatever, we've got all of those things right there. So pretty easy, poosquad.com.
And I will tell you, he and Cory as well, these guys are the easiest people to sit and talk with. I mean, I think we've been sitting here talking with for 2 hours prior to shoot this video, right? But I will tell you this, and again, we've talked about throughout this whole video, right, is that Jamie and Cory, these guys are here to help. They're here to help the community, number one, and number two, they're here to help you grow and change your life. And I think that's a big message that I'd like to get across for you guys in this room. I want to have the people know, like, you live that life, right? And I think that's very, very important on that end of it. So I appreciate you guys watching. I appreciate you guys jumping on here with me today. Any last words of encouragement or things that you want to add to this before we wrap it up?
No, I do want to give you a plug, though. I appreciate you having us on your show. But I have used Kyle as my realtor as well. So probably one of the most amazing home buying experiences that I ever had. And we even had some stuff that didn't go quite right. And Kyle actually stepped up, and I think he even paid out of his own pocket to have some stuff done, fixed that wasn't necessarily on him to do. But fantastic job, and thank you for what you do.
I promise I didn't pay him to say that. But Cory, what about you?
Listen, if I leave anybody with anything at this point, I think it's just that, I know a lot of life success is defined monetarily. Right. And I would say your most valuable asset is actually your time. It's the only thing in life you can't make more of. You can make more friends and you can make more money. You can never make more time, and you never know when you're running out of it. And we've seen friends run out of it or come real close to running out of it. So I'd say that I would tell everyone to be smart in business on what you spend your money on. Be more smart with what you spend your time on, because that's probably the key to all things in life. So just make sure you're allocating it to the things and the people you find most valuable. And I think the money just tends to follow. So yeah, allocate that time well.
And make it fun.
Make it fun. That's make it fun.
Part of our core values at Poo Squad.
That's the submission statement.
We have 4 core values, and having more fun than anyone else is one of those.
Absolutely. It's value number 2.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, hey, I appreciate you so much for watching this video. If you've made it this far, I really do. I hope you grabbed some good nuggets from this one. It's been a pleasure. So thank you again, guys, for jumping on here with me. And thank you so much for watching these video today of local legends of the Flint Hills, where business meets community. I really do enjoy these ones. So stay tuned for next week. As always, if you do like this content and you want to, please go ahead and hit subscribe. Go ahead and hit that little bell so you get notified of any future content. And go ahead and hit this like button so that way you help us out as well. And I will tell you this, please, please, please share this video with somebody who you know might be looking to change jobs, might be looking to help get the poop out of their yard, right? Share this video so they can understand a little bit more about what these two do every day here in their office and get things taken care of. So please share this video. Please reach out to these guys. They are great and very welcoming. So I promise you, you'll not hate the conversation you have with them. So thank you again for watching, and until next week.